Hi, everybody. I really enjoyed watching this TED Talk, Connected But Alone. The main reason I believe that Sherry Turkle had this talk was to discuss how technology has become a huge part of the way we interact with other people in our lives. She discussed how people are always looking for acceptance in life and that they use cell phones in order to achieve this. She thinks is an ex- this is a major problem in society and that it's making people rely on their phones for everything. She suggests that in order to solve this problem, people need to learn to stay off their phones so they can focus on their ability to interact with society more effectively. So some of the key points from the video that I found to be interesting was when she said people are afraid of conversations because it is in real time and you can't control what you say. The reason I found this interesting was because uh, it was her way of explaining why she thinks millennials are afraid of physical conversations. Another point that she made during the video was that if we don't teach our children how to be alone, they're only going to know how to be lonely. Uh, I found this interesting because she's suggesting that technology is going to bring us down a dark path, and that um, one day it's likely that future generations won't be able to know what it's like to be alone because they'll be communicating with people in so many different ways that they'll never know when to have time to themselves, I guess, and um, will never be uh, able to understand what it's actually like to be alone with yourself. And the final point that I found interesting in this video was when she was talking about how she was observing her daughter and her friends hang out and how it was like they were together hanging out while not being together because they were on their cell phones the entire time. I think it was interesting because she gave a great example of what teenagers are acting like now due to the constant time spent on their phones and how they are starting to talk less to each other and more uh, trying to use their phones to communicate. So, being part of the millennial generation, I do use my technology a lot. I'll agree with her on that. But and I do use my phone on a daily basis, but I don't think I'm obsessed with it. And I think I'm able to have a normal face-to-face conversation. I think she makes a lot of assumptions about how millennials communicate and over exaggerates about how the future uh, will one day um, be completely unable to communicate with one another face to face. I personally think that technology has just greatly diversified the way we communicate, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think that most people my age can have normal face to face conversations. We just tend to communicate more nowadays uh, in different ways than she did when she was younger. So, Turkle's speech discussed how we now communicate, develop social relationships rather than personal relationships because she suggests that we are lonely, but we are afraid of intimacy, suggesting that we want more unique relationships, but since we communicate more by technology, we are only creating simple social relationships. Um, and relating her speech, I guess back to chapter 9, she discussed how technology will block personal growth in the way we communicate because more and more young people are becoming less able to communicate face to face, and that's the reason because of that is because we tend to want to more talk less and text more and things like that. So yeah, overall, I found this talk interesting, even though personally, from my experience, is not true for me. But that's just my opinion. I look forward to hearing everyone else's thoughts on the talk because even though I don't agree with it, it was still pretty interesting.